Oh no.
Greetings and salutations.
Yes, hello.
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 And welcome to Curious Casefiles, episode 16. We're a week late. Very sorry. It's Jamie's fault.
It's all my fault.
Don't say it's his fault.
Jamie wasn't feeling very well, and because we do this live every week, if somebody gets sick, unfortunately, last minute, there's nothing we can do about it. So that's what separates us from other shows like this. We do it live, so you get us warts and all, but unfortunately, when things go wrong, we've got to cancel. So we're very sorry, but we're back. Part 2, I hate the fact that it came in between a two-parter, but that couldn't be helped. We're going to continue with eugenics and birth control, the twisted history.
Well, yeah. Maybe it'll give people an opportunity to have rewatched the first episode to kind of see where we're at in this. But I'm glad you're feeling a bit better, Jamie. And it's one of these things that most of these shows, as Lisa pointed out to me, I hadn't really paid attention to the fact that most of them are pre-recorded. So to get
they're not crazy. They don't do it live, but we're crazy.
We do it live for everybody, so we can try to interact and everything. So.
And get like natural reactions and that,
we're a bit crazy. We probably shouldn't do it live, but here we are.
Yeah.
You might be wondering why there's a picture of a lemon on the front cover.
Mm-hmm.
You'll find
I didn't
out,
just pick it for fun.
You'll find out soon.
I wish I didn't know.
You'll find out soon why there's a little mark on my screen that's getting on my nerves. Right, there we go. No, it's still there. Whatever. Anyway. Yeah, lemons. Brace yourselves. There's lemons coming, everybody.
Be quite fruity.
Yeah. So, in the first episode, which was now 2 weeks ago, I hope you've all watched it. If you've not watched it and you're catching this up later, please go back and watch the first one, because some of this might not make sense. We go over some of the key people that are involved in this movement, like your Margaret Sanger and your Clarence. Clarence, you want to hear about Clarence, watch part 1. That is, I'll put the link in the description afterwards. Go back and watch that. This is part 2. So before we get into what the main crux of today's show is going to be, and that's going to be the dark history of the contraceptive pill, we're just going to go over the bizarre history of birth control.
Mm-hmm.
It's bizarre.
I really want to know about these lemons.
Okay.
And the mid-ring from Michigan over there. While I'm going through this with you, just keep an eye on what colours Danielle goes. I'm hoping for some new colours this week. Not normally we get sort of reds and like because she gets embarrassed, but I'm hoping maybe some green in there.
Green.
But you might be feeling a bit
Maybe
sick.
something going wrong.
It might make you feel a bit sick, Danielle.
Oh yeah, well, some of it, yes.
But I can assure you, you never have lemons again.
Yeah, and never look at them the same way anyway.
Right, so this is going to be a little bit of fun, really. It's not supposed to be fun, but it's bloody hilarious before we get into the actual
Strange.
twisted history. So the first ever mention of a condom dates back to 3000 BC, where King Minos of Greece, who is this fit? I don't know what that is on his head, but that's him.
That's his
Is that his hair?
hairstyle.
Is that his hair, or has he got some? I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's King Minos of Greece. He used the bladder of a goat to protect his wife from, and I quote, this is what he said, it's not me, to protect his wife from the serpents and scorpions in his semen. Yes, he did. He said
Well, that's
that.
a statement, isn't
Yeah.
it? That's
Oh my god.
Yes, he did. He's got apparently had some serpents and scorpions in there.
That's a first. You never hear of that.
So he's a massive weirdo, isn't he? So that's the first ever mention that we found, anyway, of a condom. In ancient Egypt, and I'm going to skip forward a little bit. And I don't know what my dog's doing, but whatever.
Yeah, he started to move as soon as it started.
Live television, everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. In ancient Egypt, in 1850 BC, brace yourselves. Deep breath, everybody. They were using crocodile poo. Yes, I did say
Yes, you
crocodile poo.
How did they come to that idea?
Oh, just-
That's what I want to know.
Because they're crazy. Right. They were using crocodile poo that they dried out and then mixed with honey to form a soft paste. I suppose.
Oh,
This was then inserted up there into the female.
up there, here we go
Yeah.
with the
Here
description.
we go with the hands again. It was inserted into the female genitalia. Danielle Elvis, what colour is she, Jamie?
Couldn't they have just used mud or something? Why did they have to use
Because they want to use
crocodile poop?
I don't know. It was inserted- anyway, it was the assumption was that it would soften and expand to form a barrier. Unsurprisingly, this didn't work.
No.
No, I mean it heats up like mud and droopy drip. Like they would have been like crocodile.
And it went and stunk because
Oh, yeah.
not only the poo smell, but crocodiles only in the Nile, their only food was fish. So
Oh,
anyway, actually,
Yeah.
yeah,
full of
it
shit.
actually had the opposite effect because crocodile poo, I don't know who figured this out later, but crocodile poo actually changes the pH in the body and actually improves the chance of conception. So it had the complete opposite effect. So yeah, they fucked up a little bit, didn't they? It was
yeah.
all that.
Who tested that theory?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
all that like crocodile poo and honey.
Yeah.
What were you
No,
thinking?
thanks. They weren't.
It does get worse though. Oh,
There's the crocodile.
that's not the kind of croc that I was talking about, James.
Oh, yeah. Ha ha ha. Yeah. That must have stunk, mustn't it? I mean,
Yeah, I'll put
why
Jamie
would you fancy? Why
I
would you
put Jamie
fancy
in charge
doing
of the
that?
pictures. That's why that was.
Okay, I
Yeah.
just I'm just thinking of even just of it being disgusting and then the warmth of the body making it more liquefied versus clumpy. But what about infection?
You have to say the word clumpy.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's what they were doing in Egypt.
We need to put a disclaimer: don't try this at home.
Yeah. I'm glad I went
I hope,
around.
I hope nobody does try this at home. Please don't.
Well, you'd have to have access to crocodile
crocodile,
poo,
yeah.
which would be quite difficult. Yeah, in some places.
Right. So one of the first prescriptions for birth control was on a papyrus sheet from 1550 BC Egypt. It called for a tampon made of seed wool soaked in ground thorn tree, dates, and honey.
See,
Wait,
that sounds...
I hope the thorns weren't in it.
No. But at least
Well-
there was honey rather than poo, I suppose.
But there was
It's a
honey in
bit
the
of
poo as well.
improvement. No. Right.
Yeah. However,
Whoa.
they were actually onto something here because one of the things that they were using, because they were using acacia leaves with their honey, and acacia fermented into lactic acid within the woman's body, which did actually have spermicidal properties. So
All right.
Do you reckon they knew that bit, or just?
No, I think they just made it up. And
Do these people just grab anything off the like? What we got lying, literally lying about?
What's on the shelf?
Yeah.
Actually, I hope they weren't.
It sounds like, well, especially if they're in the heat of the moment, right? They're like, "Hey, you want to go?"
Crocodile poo on the shelf. That's a bit fucking weird, but yeah. Anywho, still in Egypt, by 1000 BC, Egyptians had created a linen condom. Yes, they had. This was more about disease prevention than birth control.
Yeah.
Bizarrely, though, I don't quite understand this. They were coloured. They coloured them. They were all different colours, and it was flaunted as some sort of weird ass status symbol by Egyptian men. So it's like, I've got a blue linen condom. Yeah, I don't know.
What do the colours mean?
I don't know what the colours mean. I couldn't find it. I just like.
I hope they weren't counting. I
They
hope they
were
weren't
comparing linen condoms and like, yeah. I think if you got a certain colour, you're maybe a bit better, or maybe it was like size. I don't know.
Right.
Blue, red.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe.
And did they reuse them? They didn't work properly, did they? Because they're linen, like.
They were supposed to stop disease. I don't know how. I don't know. That's what they were doing now. By 700 BC, the Romans were using the bladders of sheep, goats, and other animals as a rudimentary condom.
So back to bladders again. Did they have honey in the poo in there?
Well, nothing's more romantic than shoving a dead animal's bladder on your member, is it? Like,
No.
How did they think to the idea? What are we going to do with this? I know, I've got the perfect idea with this.
I know. Let me just go and get a sheep's bladder.
Yeah.
These were still more about infection control than birth control, although, to be honest, I'd be wondering what sort of diseases I was going to get from a dried out, empty out bladder of an animal that was once full of piss.
That's what I'm thinking.
That's just me. Maybe that's just me, but
I mean, I hope that like they're like boiling this stuff and.
See, before I've always said, "Oh, I wouldn't mind going back to them times and seeing how they go about things and that." But now
I don't want to know.
I don't know. Yeah,
it's like that's why people didn't live long back then.
I went down a real rabbit hole finding all this. It's like, what? Really?
Yeah.
Anyway, by 2020 BC, the Romans came up with what is one of the probably worst ideas yet. And I know we've done crocodile poo.
I don't think you can get worse.
That wasn't the worst.
Yeah. The Romans were like, crocodile poo, Egypt, hold my beer. Yeah. They placed a hard stone or a bronze object up into the woman. Up. That's
so they're just shoving objects.
They're just shoving things up into the women's reproductive tract to block the way. So they're just getting a boulder and just, yeah, there you go. I can't even begin to imagine how painful that was. They did sometimes, not all the time, sometimes insert peppermint oil to numb the area during the insertion of the boulder,
really?
Rock, whatever.
I mean, what's the point? And then the more they're like shoving it up further as he's like,
oh my God, Danielle!
How do they get this out?
They're just hammering it in there, aren't they?
How do they fish it out of there?
How do they fish it out of there?
I don't know.
Is that how they got the terms getting your rocks off?
I don't know.
Danielle!
Well,
they're shoving a rock up there.
They're just forcing it further in, aren't they?
Okay.
Yeah.
That was naughty.
Can we move on, everybody?
Yeah.
What colour is she, Jamie?
She has gone really red. Yeah, she did it to herself as well.
She did it to her. It wasn't me. She done that to herself.
Don't you wonder where
Trump's in a hard place?
Yeah, she's between a rock and a hard place.
Oh, boom.
Yeah. So that was ridiculous anyway, over in Rome.
Yes.
Now we're going to stay in Rome. Roman gynecologist, is that him?
That's him, yeah.
That's him.
That's him.
He was actually human. He wasn't made of stone or anything.
And he wasn't quite as stretched that.
I hope he had arms.
He wasn't actually made of stone. That's just a statue of him. That's
yeah. Otherwise, we would never know where they put him.
So, Roman gynecologist, we were just seeing on the screen. Serranus.
No, I've now figured it out. Stop the press. Now I've figured out why all these statues have arms missing and legs missing. I know where they've been going.
Oh.
I know what they've been using them for.
I feel quite a lot of noses missing as well, aren't there?
Oh, that's just
right. So
strange.
That bloke, he's called Soranus, and that's spelled. Do you want to know how to spell it to look him up? It's spelled like sore anus.
Sore anus.
You can make of that what you will. So, yeah.
Wait, we're not going to cover any of that, right?
What, sore anus?
No.
No, we're not going up his sore anus.
No.
Okay, good.
We have our limits.
We've got our limits. I mean, yeah, there's limits, Danielle.
All right.
So he had several weird suggestions for pregnancy prevention.
I'm sure he did.
When I say weird, the first was probably the least weird, was that women should abstain from sex during their menstrual cycle, which we know is completely wrong, but whatever. He thought that was their most fertile time. No, you're wrong. You're wrong. However, his other ideas, one of them was that the women should stop breathing while the man finished.
Oh, that's lovely, isn't it? Yeah. Can you just die?
Oh, wait a minute. Danielle's got something to say here. Stop. Wait a minute. Danielle, what is it?
I just take issue with this because, wait, we're supposed to hold our breath while the man is finished? I mean, what if he's been drinking?
Then you're dead, love. Then you're dead.
That's wrong. Can you wait? Can they pretend?
Drinking, you're not breathing ever again.
You can pretend they're holding their breath.
Yeah, you want them to hold their breath while he finished off. And then, he wasn't finished there. Then he wanted them to sneeze to force the semen out of their body. Because apparently it comes out your nose. I didn't know. Did you know? I didn't know.
That's just...
Oh
yeah,
my God.
So...
I like how it's just the women who have to do all these things.
says, haha, what? Stop breathing for 5 seconds.
There you go.
Yeah.
Another amazing method that he came up with was that women should, after the deed, stand up and then jump backwards 7 times exactly. If you do 6, it doesn't work. If you do 8, that's got to be 7. Yeah. I don't know why.
And it's got to be backwards. You can't jump forward.
If you jump forward, you fucked it. You got to jump backwards 7 times. 7 times.
Oh,
and then you got to drink the water that the blacksmith used to cool his metals, because metal poisoning's a great idea.
What? Can you imagine all these people running out to the blacksmith? So, can I have some of that water?
You lie there, you don't breathe, you sneeze, you get up, you jump backwards 7 times, then you have a drink of heavy metal water, and then you die.
I wonder if the blacksmith was making a fortune on that. Yeah, I've got some of this good old water for you.
Well, they're like, oh, I know what you've been up to. I know what you're planning on doing tonight.
You dirty little mist.
But then, really, I mean, this is like recorded history. This is what they actually did.
I know. I'm such a rabbit hole to go, and I hate to use the
rabbit hole.
I'm not going down a hole. I'm not going up a hole either. But yeah. Oh my God.
But not only is that going to, I mean, there's all sorts of dangers that could happen with drinking.
And we wonder why they didn't live very long.
Oh, that's the drunk worse. Just you wait. Right. The Old Testament was the first. Sorry. I've ruined it. I've ruined it already. I'm thinking about what's coming. I know what's coming.
Yeah.
The Old Testament was first written in ancient Hebrew and was said to have originated in the 6th century BC, although new evidence suggests it may have been even further back than that. I think maybe about 10th century BC.
Okay.
I don't know for definite. It's up in the air at the moment. And that details the pulling out method.
Ah, coitus interruptus.
Coitus interruptus, everybody. This is noted in Genesis, of all places, when talking about a man called Onan, or Onan. I don't know how to pronounce that. Onan was told by his father to sleep with his brother's wife in order to create offspring for his brother. I take it his brother was shooting blanks.
Was his brother okay with this?
I didn't go into detail, but obviously his brother was having problems. He didn't want to father a child that wasn't going to be his, so he pulled out and put it on the floor. Apparently,
put it on the floor.
Yeah, apparently after he'd pulled out and shot his load on the floor, God then struck him down and killed him.
Oh.
Now there is. I was trying to find out why. There's 2 arguments as to why God killed him. One is because he'd wasted his seed and thus he wasn't going forth and reproducing. Another argument is because he'd broken one of the commandments by coveting his brother's wife.
Do you guys have pictures and diagrams? Not of that, no.
I've not got a diagram.
Yeah.
No.
That just, I don't know.
But this was like one of the first written methods, the coitus interruptus, and it's still used today. And it's apparently, what shocked me, it's apparently got a 72% success rate if carried out properly.
Yeah.
And I actually, I mean, I think they call that like the rhythm method nowadays. And I feel like
method. He didn't know wherever he was coming on going. No, I'm sure he didn't.
I feel like 72% is kind of low, though. I mean, especially if women
it was high. I thought that's high.
If women, I guess if it's today, if women are using this method and they really know their bodies with all of the
yeah, but you got to trust the man to do it properly, ain't you?
Well, you got to trust to know when you're ovulating, and there's really only a few days a month that a woman can get pregnant. So, I don't know, women, if you're going to use this method, know your body.
Yeah. I don't know. The old rock method sounds the best.
Yeah. So from the Bible, we're going to scoot to ancient China. And if you thought that drinking the blacksmith water was, what's the word I need?
Nasty, poison,
crazy,
dangerous.
Nasty, dangerous. In ancient China, they were drinking liquid mercury to prevent pregnancy.
Well, they're not going to get pregnant then, I guess.
I did say liquid mercury. And in fairness, it did work because it often killed them. Thus, it was 100% effective because if you're dead, you're not getting pregnant.
I wonder how long it took them to figure this out, though.
Probably when they were all dead. Yeah. If they survived, I mean, it probably still did work because it made them sterile and brain damage.
How did the person who came up with that idea actually try to explain that and sell that to others? So,
just drink this.
Even if they didn't know that what is how deadly it really is, like, drink this, it's going to work. How would they?
You don't want to have a baby? Okay, drink this. You definitely not have a baby.
Did they think the mercury was going to, solidify inside them, perhaps, and turn into a metal barrier or something? I don't know.
Yeah. By the 12th century, the Chinese had come up with a less fatal method. Thank God.
Did they take her temperature after she drank some mercury? No.
We invited Jamie. Oh, yeah, it was us, Danielle. It was us. Yeah. But by the 12th century, the Chinese did come up with a better method than drinking liquid mercury, and they started using silk paper fashioned into a penile sheath, which they then lubricated with oil in the belief that it would block sperm. So at least they lubed it.
Well, and maybe the oil would block the porous opening of the
paper?
Maybe. You wonder how long that would hold up, but
no. Hold up. Yeah. I mean, how long would it hold up, do you reckon? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's
Answer, how long do you think it lasted? Answers in the comments.
They're kind of starting to get the idea, I see. Sort of.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they're headed in the right direction.
Yeah.
Definitely
in the right direction.
They knew obviously they knew that it was the semen, the sperm that
they thought it was serpents, Danielle, and scorpions.
Produced pregnancy.
Well, yeah.
So we're now in the 4th century and we're in Greece. Frankincense and cedar oils were used because they were thought to act as spermicides. But more drastically, women would internally anoint themselves with lead.
Oh, we're on to lead now. Cool.
Lead! Because, I mean, stuff. Mercury didn't work. Let's try lead. Lead does lower the sperm count in men. I'll give it that. But it does so at a cost. Lead poisoning causes vomiting, severe stomach pains, brain damage, seizures, paralysis, and ultimately death.
Wow.
So from Greece over to Japan in the 13th century. Now, they were getting very creative in Japan. I don't know what was going on in Japan, but they created something that they called the kabuta gata. It sounds
quite. Yeah,
kabuta gata.
Kabuta gata.
Can you guess what it is? I bet you bloody can't.
Has it got anything to do with metal or liquid metal?
It's got nothing to do with metal or liquid metal.
At this point, it could be anything.
The kabuta gata was a covering for the penis that was made from the shell of a tortoise.
Ouch!
Yeah. That was the one.
It was that exact tortoise.
Yeah, it's like, fuck off, you're not having my shell.
It didn't. It was completely rigid, didn't move. It probably did help men that suffered with erectile dysfunction disguise what was wrong with them, but probably a bit painful for both of them, I should imagine.
I would think for both of them.
I feel sorry for the tortoises of all running around with no homes left. They got to give their little houses a good old wash if they want them back. You know?
Oh, wow.
Oh, dear.
So, that just, it makes you wonder, was it even worth it at that point? Come on.
Yeah, so that's what the computer gator was.
Not as cool as you thought then.
No, thank you.
Yeah, is that where you get that saying you've got enough lead in? Yes, they broke their lead in their pencil. I thought of that, and they.
See, you guys have to wonder where all these sayings come from. I'm with. See, Bob, yep.
So on to the 14th century. The 14th century anatomist Gabriele Falloppio suggested. There he is. He looks a bit chubby in the face because Jamie stretched him, but he wasn't that fat, apparently.
He's got Flabio. Yeah. He's not Fabio anymore. He's Flabio.
He suggested the use of a superior condom in England. Now, they were superior, and I'll tell you why. They were made from linen and were tied at the end with a nice little ribbon. Yeah,
I did have a picture of him with it, but then that was really small. That sounds really wrong. But yeah, the image was small.
It might not be his fault.
Yeah, well, his fault.
No, but we did have an image of it, and it's kind of what you guys can imagine. It was almost to me it looked like a curtain sheer, but that material, and then with a little ribbon, like.
Don't tie it too tight.
People at home, if you've still got them things called net curtains, remember net curtains from the 90s? You can just make your little
all you need is a net curtain and a ribbon.
And a piece of string. And you wear it well away.
Yeah. Fun fact for you, Gabriele Falloppio gave his name to the fallopian tube.
Uh-huh.
That makes sense. When I heard the name.
Like Flabio.
I think there was also a nerve in your face that he gave his name to as well.
A nerve in your face?
Nerve in his face.
Some sort of nerve that's in your face. I can't remember what it was, but yeah. Right, so we're now in the Middle Ages. We're in the Middle Ages, everybody. And I'll tell you, it got bloody weird in England. Not that it was not weird everywhere else, but yeah. In this period in history, women put their faith in spells and magic, and they wore amulets made from mules' earwax. So they're just getting a big Q-tip out and just getting their horse and just like, and putting it on a necklace because apparently that's going to stop them getting pregnant. That wasn't all though. No.
Nay.
Oh, nay. It wasn't just the earwax necklace. They also, how do I put this? Do you know what a weasel is? Do you have weasel?
Yeah, I know what a weasel.
Yeah, they've got a weasel as a president at the moment.
Right. Basically, they got a weasel and whether it was already dead or they killed it, I've no idea. But they then got its testicles and either tied them round their neck or around their thigh.
What?
So they'd have weasel testicles tied round their neck or tied round their thigh during intercourse, which is bloody romantic, I'd say. Yeah.
Now, next time somebody has a go about us lot and all these sort of animals going extinct, I'm going to say they bloody started it just by trying to, not have children.
I've got a question for Jamie. Just imagine that we're getting intimate and
just pull out some.
I've got some animal's testicles wrapped around my thigh. Would that put you off, or would that turn you on?
I'd just be on the floor laughing.
Oh my gosh! I bet there was a lot of pregnant women.
However, I would feel sorry for the weasel.
Right, and finally, we've had.
Imagine the smell.
Mule's earwax, weasel's testicles. This one, I couldn't wrap my head around this one. Right,
wrapped your head. Well, like a testicle wrapped around your head. Yeah.
They fashioned jewellery from a bone that had to be taken from the right side of a black cat.
Why not
the left side?
Not the left side.
I don't know what happened if you used the wrong side. If you didn't know your left or your right, I don't know what happened. But you had to take a bone from the right side of a black cat. So if it was a ginger cat, no. And that was all to prevent pregnancy. Needless to say, none of these methods worked at all, and they all look like crazy wankers.
And I bet there was a lot of pregnant women back in the Middle Ages.
Oh, yeah. A lot of pregnant women with testicles wrapped around their thighs.
Oh, my God.
And hordes of children.
So that was Middle Ages England. Apparently, England wasn't on board with the whole Japanese and Chinese method of...
No, they didn't have tortoise shells or poo.
No.
Okay.
So by the 16th century in England, women were told to wash their intimate areas both inside and out with acetic acid. And that's vinegar, by the way. Mm-hmm. Prostitutes at the time soaked sponges in vinegar and then applied it before intercourse. It didn't work at all in doing anything, apart from if they had any cuts or sores down there. It stung like a motherfucker.
I would imagine it being like, stinging, but I would imagine that might have helped with some like infection type of thing, but nothing to do with pregnant. Wow. Oh, ow.
See, I asked Danielle the other week because we have in the UK we have fish and chips.
Oh my god, he was going to bed and he's like, "Oh my god, I need to ask Danielle a question." And he waited about 24 hours to ask her, and it was on his brain box because we had fish and chips that day. And like hours later, when he went to bed, he was sitting wondering because he puts vinegar on his chips.
Yeah.
What do Americans do with vinegar? And that really plagued them.
Because they
we use it as a cleaning product in America.
Yeah.
We don't.
What do Americans use vinegar for?
Now we know what they used it for.
Yeah.
But there you go. You learn something new every day.
He was nearly sleeping, and he woke me up like, I wonder what Americans put on their chips. What?
Ketchup.
Because I know there's vinaigrette, but that's just like I thought that's different. Yeah.
But you're talking like straight kind of vinegar, right? Or malt vinegar?
I know you have like pickles and stuff, but
well, I mean, we have vinegar when it's with another ingredient. There's vinegar and a lot of vinegar in some of our cooking products, like you said, like in pickling and stuff like that. But by itself, a lot of times we use it as like a cleaning product for household.
We're now going to move on from the pickled vagina.
Pickled vagina.
Good.
I'm going to go to Italy for Danielle's favourite one. So over in Italy, the famous heartthrob Casanova.
There he is.
He looks a bit feminine to me. I don't know why he was a heartthrob, but apparently everybody was just like falling over themselves to be with Casanova, and I have no idea why. Does he look like a girl to you?
I don't know. I guess maybe looks aren't everything.
So he was a heartthrob anyway, apparently. In Italy.
Yeah.
Anyway,
maybe it's because he looked after his looks and things like that, and kept himself clean, perhaps.
Casanova managed to convince his sexual partners to half a lemon, scoop out the innards of the lemon, and
just like that.
Shove it up there.
Just like that.
Just like that.
Okay.
It's an actual testament to the allure that he had over these women that he actually convinced them to shove a lemon up there. But it was actually something that was mimicked later on, and they mimicked it to form cervical devices from rubber. But
I mean, you can see the idea here, right? It's a barrier.
At least it's a bit more flexible than a rock.
It's a little pot to collect things.
And she probably smelled really fresh after.
Smelled fresh,
lemony fresh.
But seriously, here we go again.
Yeah,
my mind just like getting
these shit up there and
getting these things out. Getting these things out afterwards.
Yeah.
At least it was more flexible than a rock.
So if you ever went into back in that time, if you ever went in someone's room and saw like all this lemon pulse sitting on the side, you know what they've been up to.
Hey, well, Casanova was with a lot of women. He must have had a lot of lemons later on.
He must have used a lot of lemons.
But what about that? It had to burn the man. Come on.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah, that's
right. And although they look like some weird-ass medieval torture device, chastity belts...
Like that one.
Which is amazing.
It's even got a little love heart on it. Look.
Yeah, it's got a little love heart on it. Look at it. These didn't become popular until the 1800s. And fashion magazines at the time advertised them as a device against sexual assault. During the Industrial Revolution, women in Europe were entering the workforce in record numbers, and many of them donned these uncomfortable pants to protect them from assault. However, on many occasions, the males often made their wives wear them to prevent them cheating on them or masturbating.
So again, I have seen some. There is male ones, aren't there? Like
I was gonna say it's okay for him, but not okay for her.
Yeah, but I was
cheat or masturbate, Danielle.
Either or.
I'm right.
Yeah.
These, I mean,
So yeah.
I mean, what happened? You know, seriously. I mean, you think about the stuff that was done to these women up in the past. It's like,
yeah,
I don't know. It's
I'm
amazing
sure-
that women even still we continue to procreate.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say, Danielle. You'd be like, that probably would work as contraceptive.
Like, I'm not even doing it. If you want, no, I'm not even doing it because you're not shoving that up.
Especially when they come
Yeah.
along with their little bricks, poo, and lemons, and it's like, no.
Yeah. No.
So yeah, no wonder they all had headaches.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's where we were at the beginning of the 20th century, where we're at a stage where we clearly needed something a little bit better than crocodile poo and tortoiseshell. We needed something. In fairness, some of them did get close, and they actually found some things that had spermicidal properties.
Mm-hmm.
But most of them were way off base, and frankly, a little bit sadistic in some cases, and
more like
crazy.
torture.
They were crazy. I mean,
Yeah.
who even thinks that up?
Where do they come up with
I wonder
these
what we
ideas?
could do to prevent pregnancy. Oh, look, there's a crocodile having a poo.
I just don't get
Yeah, that's just really random.
the crocodile poo or and even that stupid rock.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, we're now going to get on to the birth of the contraceptive pill.
Okay.
I see what you did there.
Did you?
What did she did?
The birth of the contraceptive
of the
pill.
contraceptive.
Oh, the
Clever.
birth. I get it. Takes me a minute.
Hey, in our last episode, we introduced you to a few of the big players, if you remember. If you watched it, if you didn't, naughty, very naughty. And the birth control eugenics movement in the 20th century. That was people like Margaret Sanger. We'll remember Margaret, don't we?
Mm-hmm. She had a face like she'd been sucking some lemons. Not.
And Clarence Gamble.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Oh, sorry. Yeah. And we discussed their feelings on eugenics and their apparent motivation for taking it upon themselves to create and distribute a contraceptive pill. This was, in their eyes, purely about population control targeted specifically at lowering the population of the poor, the uneducated, disabled, the mentally ill, and people of what they deemed to be inferior races because they were massive arseholes.
Mm-hmm.
And who gave them that right? We go back to that.
Yeah, we died and made them God.
Yeah.
So, I don't know why I clap my hands here. So, in the early 20th century, a plethora of soldiers fighting in World War I were returning home with sexually transmitted diseases. Apparently, all of their time wasn't spent in dirty battlefield trenches. Some of it was clearly spent in other kinds of dirty trenches.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
See?
Due to this, there was a push to educate men about sexually transmitted diseases and how they can protect themselves from disease and unwanted pregnancy. And I need a massive drink, so Danielle's going to tell me the rest for a minute. Ain't you, Danielle?
Oh, sure.
Not totally the rest. Don't panic, Danielle.
Not the entire rest. I'll come back when I've sorted my throat out.
Raise your hand when you're ready. No. So Margaret Sanger, she saw this as an opportunity to really push her birth control agenda in the eyes of many, an agenda to protect and aid women globally in taking responsibility and to provide them with a discreet way of avoiding any unwanted pregnancies. So it really made it look good, right? This wasn't strictly true, however, as we learned from our last episode.
Just really quickly, I'd just like to point out.
I admire Margaret Sanger enormously.
Of course you do.
Yeah. So the contraceptive pill was pioneered by two men, of course, who got their start at the prestigious Harvard University. I don't know, the more you learn about Harvard University, the less prestigious it seems.
Yeah,
I know,
exactly.
I think it's prestigious, but it was full of wankers.
That's full of people like that.
Yeah. Oh.
Look how insane the faces.
He does look insane. Look at his eyebrows.
Mm-hmm.
So first up, we have Gregory Goodwin Pincus.
That was him, by the way.
That was
Jamie jumped a gun, but that was him.
Yeah.
Pincus.
And can I just say, before we continue, that every time when I was going over this and we were reading it and I was discussing it with Danielle and Jamie, every time anybody says the word Gregory Pincus, I'm just thinking...
Think a little Pincus.
Because it's Pincus. So Gregory Pincus.
Uh,
He probably did. He probably did. That's why he did. Yeah.
Probably accurate. Yeah. So Pincus, he was an assistant professor at Harvard who would go on to research the mysteries of contraception in his own lab. In 1944, he co-founded the Worcester Institute for Experimental Biology. Right there's a red flag, right? Experimental biology. But at least they put it right in the title.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Pincus was literally willing to do whatever it took to advance his research, and I don't doubt that at all. Obviously, from what we find out, it's just not shocking.
Yeah, he's not a nice man at all. Spoiler alert.
Yeah. He got his start in Worcester right as chemists discovered the Mexican wild yams contained compounds similar to hormones in humans. Who knew?
Who knew?
Exactly. And why did they think to test that? That's just
how did they get to that again? Yeah.
So that spurred on an explosion in the drug development, of course. And previously, hormonal research was limited by costs, and researchers had to use compounds painstakingly extracted from animals. After the discovery, hormones could be mass produced on the cheap. So this new technology, it kickstarted,
didn't they?
Yeah.
They did.
And this new technology, it kickstarted a massive global race to find the next wonder drug that could be sold out there that would work. There were fortunes to be made by these people.
Oh, yeah.
So,
do you want me to take back over?
And they probably kind of knew it already, didn't they? To be honest, that's what it was all about.
Oh, yeah. So, with artificial hormones at his fingertips for the first time, Pincus, at his fingertips,
little pinky fingers,
escalated research at his newly founded institute, working closely with the G.D. Searle pharmaceutical company.
Okay.
Yeah. Big pharma, everybody. Pincus also bought shares in Searle, creating extra incentive for discovery because it's going to make him money as well. The competition was fierce when medical trials began. Pincus would seek out experimental subjects with expediency in mind and not ethics. He was
never ethics.
All ethical.
Never ethics.
Next up, the second fella is John Rock, a Harvard professor. There he is with his little pipe.
His little pipe. I wonder where he's going to stick that pipe.
I hope he didn't stick it anyway. Yeah.
Another Harvard man, right?
Yeah.
This is John Rock, and he spent his career attempting to understand fertility in the hope to combat what he saw as one of the main problems in the world, overpopulation, especially amongst those that he saw as inferior. Who are you to judge?
Yeah, his little pipe. You can.
Yeah, sitting there with your little pipe, looking like a twat. Yeah. He is quoted as saying in an interview once, this is his words, by the way, people like to have babies, and this is particularly so among primitive peoples.
Primitive
peoples.
What an arsehole.
What an insult.
Arsehole. Yeah. So together, Pincus and Rock pioneered the development of the hormonal birth control pill through a series of trials. And when I say trials, I really want to say wankery experiments that they should never have done.
Yeah,
right.
Indeed. Yeah.
So
always at the expense of innocent people.
Pincus trials began with small-scale tests on rabbits.
Here he is testing it on rabbits. He looks like some kind of weird magician putting a rabbit to sleep. But I feel sorry for that rabbit.
I feel sorry for that rabbit because I know what's going to. I know what he done to him. Yeah. Basically, this is quite distressing actually. To me, I was like, oh. Little thumper, right? Basically, every day over a period of 5 days, he would pump female rabbits full of huge amounts of estrogen and progesterone. After the 5th day, he allowed the rabbits to mate. He then removed their fallopian tubes and examined them for signs of egg fertilization. And I'm just going to put it out there that he wasn't operating on them and hoping they would recover. He was killing them to do that. This went on for years in his lab, as he ploughed his way through hundreds of caged rabbits, searching for the perfect formula.
So, like, the term, you found out you're pregnant, the rabbit died.
What?
You guys have that term over there?
No.
Why is the rabbit dead? Why is the rabbit
I
dead?
hear about rampant rabbits and all that lark, and
Why are you saying the rabbit's dead over there? What are you going on about?
So that is a phrase that we use here in America. Like
Why?
instead of saying like, "Oh, she's pregnant," they'll be like, "Oh, the rabbit died." It has apparently.
that's
it
where
has
it's probably come from.
to dealing with the testing.
I've never heard that.
No,
See,
help
we
me out,
didn't come
Americans.
across
And no, it's legit. It's the rabbit died.
Ah.
I don't know if there's the pregnancy testing that used to be done. I don't know the whole history of it, but that is a term that is used.
That's a good one on me. I've learned something. So when Pincus felt that he had the perfect formula, he knew that he needed to move on from rabbits and test it on humans. So he then ran a series of tests on mentally ill patients in a Massachusetts asylum. Because why use willing participants when you can go into an asylum and do whatever you like to mentally ill patients who are incapable of giving informed consent? Yes, Pincus was a massive arsehole.
Yeah, one of many. One of many.
Uh-huh. The initial tests were carried out on males, but the side effects were many. What was that, Jamie?
Yeah. Well, males, again, you wouldn't have thought of males.
Well, that's just probably what you had access to initially.
What you had access to,
Yeah.
males.
The side effects were many, and it was then decided that the new pill should be given to females because Pincus and his team didn't want to burden men with the side effects because men deserved a trouble-free life where they weren't afflicted with such issues. Women, on the other hand, stuff them. They were fine. Just they'll deal with it as long as the men are okay.
Do you think that was because of some of the laws as well that they used on men as a loophole or something?
He was looking for loopholes because it was actually illegal. In the US.
Okay, so I'm looking right here and it says, although rabbits were used for all manner of research, the rabbit test became synonymous with pregnancy screenings, and the phrase, the rabbit died, entered common usage as a euphemistic way of saying someone was pregnant, even though the rabbit always died during the test.
That's really sad.
Yeah, that's weird. That's strange that we didn't come across that actually when we were.
Well, I didn't know it existed, so I was looking for it. Yeah. So, they've decided that they're going to do it on women because men can't have a single side effect. You can't destroy a man's life. Oh, no. So in 1954, under the guise of learning about the pill's possible tranquilizing effect, which is weird, and we'll get to that in a minute, Pincus launched a new trial. So he's looking for the tranquilizing effect. I'm thinking Rehypnol?
Yeah, I was tranquilizing, like to knock a woman out.
It does sound a bit.
We can't say that word.
SA.
I did not say that word.
Yeah, you didn't say that.
So he launched a new trial and he recruited 16. When they say he recruited 16 female patients at a Worcester State Hospital, I don't think he recruited them. He just decided he was using them, basically. Yeah. He fed them these birth control prototypes and then sliced into their uteruses in an effort to understand the drug's effect on ovulation. When he was done, he published his findings.
Everything's just a lab rat to him. He was treating them.
Many were actually critical of his methodology after the results of this experiment were published in The Lancet, which is one of the most highly regarded medical journals in the world. One doctor wrote to the editors and said, "This use as guinea pigs of chronic psychotic patients who are not able to give or withhold valid permission in physiological research of this type must be as repugnant to many of your readers as it is to me." So at least somebody spoke up about it. But
just like you said, they recruited. That there was no informed consent going on here.
Yeah. SA is sexual assault because you can't say the R word or you get banned on YouTube.
Yeah.
Just answering somebody in the chat. The criticism, however, didn't faze Pincus. He continued to experiment on psychotic patients at the Worcester State Hospital because he didn't care.
And they ain't gonna say nothing.
In a 1956 experiment, scientists under his direction performed testicular biopsies on 20 schizophrenic men without anesthesia. According to letters and a draft of a scientific paper reviewed by the Crimson at the Library of Congress, Pincus was interested in the men's castration anxiety. So
castration, so like wanting to know the anxiety they went through while they were being castrated.
So that's the kind of sadistic freak that we're talking about here.
And it was allowed to go on.
Yeah.
So he refused to accept any negative feedback because clearly he doesn't care and he's a huge narcissist throughout any of the trials, even when it was close to home. At one point, he was actually sending the drug to female family members. And when one of his relatives complained of serious side effects, he just simply offered her a different concoction and she politely declined. So if he's willing to use his own family as test subjects, he doesn't care about anybody else.
No.
No.
These would be called serial killers today. They've got the same sort of makeup as them sort of people where they don't care about nothing.
Psychopath.
Yeah, sadistic testing, just under the guise of medical experiments, you know.
Yeah, and I think it's time for you to listen to Danielle for a minute.
Oh, okay. We get into the Nuremberg Code then?
We're on
the development of the birth control and other wonder drugs happened during a relatively unregulated period, of course, of scientific history. Nobody was complaining too much, apparently, to make a big deal of it.
It bloody should have been, though. Really.
They should have been. So the Nuremberg Code of 1947, that established,
He's a knob.
He's a knob.
That established the importance of informed consent. Thank you, right? Informed consent. However, we'll go into more of that later, which established the importance of informed consent was not legally binding, and it's still not legally binding today.
But you don't have to do it, but it's quite important. But don't worry about it.
It's still today, right? The Kefauver-Harris drug amendments of 1962 and the Belmont Report of 1979, which required proof of drug safety and respect, beneficence, and justice throughout all human trials, had not yet been written. American researchers had no formal obligation.
Before you started trialing people, but whatever.
Yeah, and American researchers had no formal obligation to obtain informed consent. Somehow this must have just carried on till today, but now they're more secretive about what they do.
They think that they're doing it now, but I very, very much doubt it because they're not. Yeah.
So our old friend Margaret Sanger, who was heavily involved in funding these tests through her organization Planned Parenthood, would later claim she was unaware of them. She actually literally said, "I'm unaware of them," and that she would have opposed them had she known. Bullshit, Margaret.
Who the other one, Margaret?
Yeah.
I smell lemons and crocodiles.
She smells a bit like crocodile shit.
Yeah. So this is when Pincus teamed up with Rock. So we got Pincus and Rock.
Yeah.
Rock was simultaneously carrying out his own research using these hormones, and he believed that women who were suffering from infertility issues were suffering because their reproductive systems had not properly matured yet.
And this is a doctor. Like, this is not that long ago. And that's a ridiculous notion.
That is.
Yeah,
she can't get pregnant because she's got an immature reproductive system.
Blaming women
really?
and them.
Really?
Yeah. It's all like.
And he's educated at Harvard, one of the most prestigious.
Yeah.
Really?
So he felt like if you tricked the human body or the female body into a fake pregnancy using these hormones, it would then mature the uterus and reproductive system when you stopped giving the hormones to the women, and then they would be able to become pregnant. He tested it on students and told them if they didn't participate, they would get bad grades.
Lovely people, lovely human beings.
So many of the women were uninformed, obviously, of exactly what they were participating in, and actually believed that they were getting pregnant, that they were pregnant because they felt this way, right? They had many of the symptoms.
Getting, like, breast tenderness. They weren't getting periods, obviously. They were getting all the symptoms that they would associate with pregnancy.
And many of them, of course, were happy to be pregnant, only to find out that they weren't. And obviously that was a big heartache for many of them, discovering that they weren't pregnant and they stopped taking the hormones. Oh, Pincus
Surprisingly, Pincus wanted in, didn't he?
Yeah, go ahead.
You can continue if you want.
Okay.
Pincus. That's what to say, Pincus.
Yeah, Pincus wanted in on it, of course. They're all, was it birds of a feather flock together? Because first up, none of Rock's patients had died. So Pincus is like, well, none of his patients died. He's onto something, right? So this was a bonus, and it would also make getting the FDA approval far easier later, but also because it allowed him a loophole. Because these tests were done under the umbrella of treating infertility, it allowed him to give his birth control concoction to Rock's test subjects legally. Birth control was illegal in the United States at that time.
So it made it legal, yeah. So he was testing it for a different reason, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So, mentally ill patients and students weren't sufficient, though. That wasn't enough for them. No. I mean, I've gone this far, might as well keep going. He needed large-scale testing, and these researchers were then faced with the dilemma of finding a large pool of female test subjects, aka guinea pigs.
Yeah, boy.
With obviously, as Danielle just said, birth control was illegal in the United States at this time. These elitist, racist, egotistical morons needed a new playground to carry out their population control experiments.
Indeed, they did.
Plus, they needed funding. Margaret was already helping out there, but to advance on to the next stage, they needed more money.
Mm-hmm.
And this brings you on to the funder. After her husband died on January the 19th, 1947, a woman named Catherine D. McCormack came into $35 million.
Uh-huh. So,
a lot of money. A lifelong feminist and birth control advocate, she spent money on what Margaret Sanger explained to her as being the greatest need of the whole plant. That's not what she said at all. The greatest need of the whole Planned Parenthood movement. That's what I was trying to get out. A simple, cheap contraceptive. Feminists had dreamed of a birth pill that women could take without a man's knowledge, and Rock and Pincus were the best chance yet.
So here we go, deceiving and deception again, without the man's knowledge. So if you're married and your husband wants,
so they try and make
your husband wants kids, but you don't, so just start taking.
And all the while, like what they do today, they try and make the trickery of making you think that you're making the decisions or it's a good idea and things that. So they're making women think, yes, independence, I'm power to the women.
Very manipulative.
I'm not having no more lemons shoved up me, that sort of thing. That's what happens.
So too many women had dropped out of John Rock's trials in Boston, obviously because they were uninformed and they didn't know what they were taking, and they were thinking they were pregnant. They were getting very upset about it.
Yeah.
And Pincus was unsatisfied with the results, and McCormick, now his main funder, also expressed frustration at this in a letter to Sanger, saying she wanted a cage of ovulating females to experiment in. Cage.
Oh my gosh.
There you go. See?
This is the type of people we're dealing with.
They don't care, and they pretend that they care about you, and these people who support these people say, oh, they care for the nation.
Today, though, still today, the Planned Parenthood people that are all about Sanger, if they knew this stuff.
They worship her.
They wanted people in cages to test on. Basically, they wanted actual, what they do with animals, which that ain't right, but,
So, in the summer of 1955, Gregory Pincus visited Puerto Rico. He believed he had discovered the perfect location to conduct their experiments and testing. Why Puerto Rico? Well, why not the US or anywhere else for that matter? They believed that this was the perfect location to conduct their testing because it ticked a lot of their boxes. These weren't boxes using logic. They chose Puerto Rico because it met their criteria, a location that had a dense population of sick, poor, non-white, undereducated occupants.
Their words, not
That's their words.
Playing God again. They get to choose.
Yeah.
The reason that they were sick and poor is because they
found their cage. Yeah.
Well, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
So Puerto Rico had no birth control laws like America had. It also already had 64 birth control outlets already in place. And their old mate, Clarence Gamble, already had clinics there. We talked about him in episode 1, if you remember. So the team could easily set up base at these locations. In Puerto Rico, fertility control developed under colonialism in the early 20th century after the Caribbean archipelago had been seized by the United States in the Spanish-American War of 1898. Little history lesson for you there. During this time, Neo-Malthusianism, I think that's how you say it, which is basically the belief that poverty stems from the proliferation of the poor, was a popularly held view throughout the West, notably by prominent US officials and what this site that I read called intellectuals, but I don't think they were that intelligent. Just my opinion, don't come from. These people also endorsed pseudo-scientific eugenics theories as a means to guarantee that only able-bodied rich white people were encouraged to reproduce because nobody else was worthy, and their opinion.
They have the cheek. These are the same people who have the cheek to put it in the lexicon that people are racist. They do certain things or brand names. You can't have that brand. You can't have this brand. That's racist. That's sexist, and all this.
Yeah.
And these are the people who's behind it all. Totally.
Yeah.
So the colonial governments in Puerto Rico and the US were completely jam-packed filled with people who believed in these philosophies and these views. And the archipelago was deemed to be overpopulated, specifically by citizenry. I can't speak. Why can't I speak? Specifically by citizenry. That's very difficult to get that out.
Yeah.
Specifically by citizenry. Try saying that 3 times really fast.
Citizenry. See, I can't.
Just citizens. By citizens.
Specifically by people of impoverished and thus inferior black and brown skin. That was their... They thought that's what they thought. They're wrong. Everybody is of the same race, the human race, but whatever.
Even though I do question these people,
I do question. These are not human.
You know, and let's not forget they went to Puerto Rico. The Puerto Ricans were not bothering anybody. They just wanted to live just like everybody else, be happy, left alone, and they invaded them and did this to them as if they had a right to do it.
Yeah. So to solve this alleged problem, which wasn't really a problem, they decided it was, the government officials instituted policies that, amongst other things, reduced births through sterilisation. And this sterilisation was conducted on thousands of women who gave zero informed consent. Many of them believed that operations were reversible. The doctors would tell them, I'm going to tie you tubes. And they thought, if you tie something, you can untie it.
Yep.
And a documentary on this subject called La Operación, which you probably, it's quite an old documentary, but it's well worth a watch. It's very interesting. One woman states in there that she was told that her tubes were going to be tied, and she literally thought, obviously, that they were going to be tied. Nobody explained to her. Nobody told her what the ins and outs of the surgery was, or the implications, or the long-term implications. It was only after she had the surgery, when the doctor left the notes by her bed, and she read them, it said in the notes that she'd been cut and stitched up. And it's like, well, what have they cut? They weren't supposed to cut anything. They were just tying my tubes. She didn't know. There was no informed consent. By 1955, 16.5% of Puerto Rican women of childbearing age had been sterilised. 16.5%. In a 1988 study of women who had been sterilised at the time, 16% of those reported that they had not made the decision for themselves. And even the ones that did make the decision for themselves didn't know what they were getting done. It wasn't explained to them. It was not explained to them that they couldn't reverse this. Many on the island justified these practices. The governor of Puerto Rico wrote to Margaret Sanger in 1933, and this is what he said in that letter. The tragedy of the situation is that the more intelligent classes voluntarily restrict their birth rate, while the most vicious, most ignorant and most helpless and hopeless part of the population multiplies with tremendous rapidity. What a wanker. And you had to get the word vicious in there as well. What? Really? Yeah. Really? Anywho.
You know, how can he call anyone vicious? He's the one who's, doing all these tests on these animals and these people carelessly and viciously.
Yeah. They can get, they're good manipulators. They can get people to believe whatever they want, all because, well, look at, they're these prestigious Harvard people. They've got this education behind them. They're proper. They dress nice. They get to make these. They're going to trust them. They're going to trust them.
Yeah. They thought they were doing it for their own good. It's a doctor. A doctor's not going to do you harm. They're here to help you.
Right.
So this laid the foundation of a Puerto Rican government who would welcome this testing because they were massive eugenicists and massive arseholes, in my opinion. And they believed that the population control would solve all of their problems. Spoiler alert, it did not. It most certainly did not. Here, they were able to easily manipulate their target audience. They went door to door through poor neighborhoods and offered these women their pill. They did not inform them that it was a test or experimental, and many agreed, thinking it was better than going through a surgery. They also offered them free healthcare, which really wasn't free healthcare. It just allowed them to take swabs for them and put like little swabs on slides and whatever. It was just for their experiment. It wasn't. If anything else was wrong with them, that was nothing.
They wouldn't have known.
Not interested.
Yeah.
But it gave these poor Puerto Rican women a massive incentive, thinking that they're going to get free healthcare.
Yeah, well, the procedure was expensive as well.
It was not universal, though.
Right.
It was only so they could examine and keep track of their test subjects. They would also commandeer asylums and other mental institutes to test on the patients there. Remember, Margaret denied condoning these methods before, yet here they are, doing it again.
Who's the violent ones? Who's the crazies? Who's the...
Yeah.
I think you're a bit of a fucking liar, Margaret.
And they were, you know, we already know about like the other guy who did the experiments on the women in the college or whatever, and like you're going to get bad grades. I'll fail you if you don't do this for me. Who's to say what they really weren't and were telling these people also behind the scenes? Like, well, what's going to happen to your family? You're not going to be provided for. You're not going to get this or that if you don't do these.
Well, that's always the thing. Yeah. This is just the stuff that you do find out. Yeah. The stuff you do know. You know other things more sinister and more.
Yeah.
Other hand-to-hand tactics went on as well.
So, because of their belief that all Puerto Rican women were, in their minds, dumb and inferior, these people actually believed that if they could get them to successfully take a daily contraceptive pill, that they would be able to market it like that. Like, look, even these idiots can do it. Anybody can do it. It's just so disrespectful.
It is.
The whole motive, if we can get these primitive, because they thought they were primitive women to do it, then anybody can do it.
That's terrible.
Disgusting.
Yeah.
Now, in Puerto Rico, the Puerto Rican government had a massive propaganda campaign already in place that was pushing sterilization down their throats, like, this has to be done. They were putting up posters which stated things like, if you don't have a small family, you're going to be poor and you will be harming Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
In schools, the actual test books that they give to children promoted to children that small families lived in large houses and they were wealthy, thus brainwashing them from a very young age that you've got to have a small family to succeed in life. If you have a large family, you're going to suffer and you're going to be poor and you're going to make the whole country suffer. It's just like complete brainwashing. Gregory Pincus saw this as an opportunity to collect willing participants by providing an alternative to the current permanent solution. Some women did take part willingly on this premise. However, Pincus and his team forgot to mention all the risks and side effects that this experimental medication had. Nor did he mention that it was even experimental in the first place. Actually, one of the women in the documentary La Operación, when they were interviewing her, that was the first of her, when in the middle of talking to her, telling her that it was an experiment. She did not know till that second.
Yeah.
What? I didn't know it was a test. They purposely left out these details to ensure that they got enough people to participate. But it was all about money and population control. They would later defend themselves by stating that the laws at the time didn't require them to directly ask permission or reveal such information. Again, as we said in the last episode, and we'll probably say many, many times over future episodes on different topics, just because it's not against the law doesn't make it morally right.
Exactly.
And they knew they didn't have any recourse because they were, a poor country, poorer people. So what are they, how are they supposed to fight back against this?
Well, they were poor because of what was done to them.
Yeah.
Well, exactly, but
the actual mass sterilization, they actually started a whole program where they opened up specific factories in Puerto Rico that only employed female workers because it was cheap labor. You didn't have to pay women as much as men. So the women getting sterilized meant they can go to work, and they had these actual birth control clinics within the factories.
Yeah.
So actually in the places of work.
On your break, you'd be going to get sterilized.
The men are all out in the streets unemployed. The women are working, but they're getting pittance. And all the industry that went to Puerto Rico were making millions of dollars out of these female workers. Yeah. It was all done on purpose.
But again, they had
slave labor in a way.
Yeah, and they had there's just no recourse. It's not like they could fight back against this. What are they going to do legally, right? What are they going to do? Yeah. Who are they going to? Are they going to hire somebody? Nobody's going to listen to these poor people. There's different forms of slavery. There's definitely.
Well, they're in government. Even they're in government are saying, you're disgusting. You're ruining this country for having children or getting pregnant or whatever.
It's actually,
it's actually really the women as well, not everyone.
It's tragic what's happened to Puerto Rico, and it's still happening. We'll get to that as well.
Yeah.
So he set up these clinics in small villages throughout Puerto Rico. Some of the women he targeted had already given birth. He knew this because they had given birth in one of his friend Clarence Gamble's clinic. So they had them on file. They were easy to get in contact with, and he knew that these women would be easily convinced to take these tablets because they just had a baby and they might not particularly want another one immediately. So take this and you'll not have to have a baby again at the moment.
Yeah.
So they would tell them that it was a simple, easy and safe solution, therefore lying to them because they didn't know that. It was a test.
Use that word safe, right?
Yeah, so
safe.
They're lying to them.
We've heard this more recently, haven't we?
We have heard this more recently, and that's all I'm going to say on that at the moment.
Yeah.
All they had to do was take a little pill. Remembering also that these people agreed to take in part through a fear that the government had already instilled in them over years of a propaganda campaign. So in their minds, to avoid becoming a blight on Puerto Rico, all they had to do was take a tiny little tablet every day. That's all they had to do. The criteria for the trials was that these women had to be below the age of 40 and had to have had at least 2 children. So basically, they were trying to cut them off at 2. Very reminiscent of communist China. Just throwing that out there.
And young too.
Danielle, people are sick listening to me. Go.
So the first trial went on for months, and 22% of the participants dropped out. Thank goodness. But the reason being was that they were experiencing extreme side effects, some of which are still common today, such as bloating and headaches, weight gain, and more extreme side effects such as nausea, stomach aches, and even severe bleeding. Yeah. And then again, we're talking about hormones, so we know that this affects mental health too, because that can affect moods and things like that in that nature. So even though these are still experienced today, these were much more severe then because, due to the fact that there were 3 times as many of the hormones in the initial pills as there are in the modern version of today.
And they're still quite risky today.
Yeah, they are.
Imagine three times that.
Yeah, they're still finding out because with anything, when they talk about long-term tests and what you can find out in long-term use. So they find out a lot of things now that can be directly
is a long time, isn't there? You know.
Yeah, researchers dismissed the complaints about negative reactions, just like they do today.
Yes, they would. Yeah.
Calling them psychosomatic.
Here, so go away.
Yeah, they even went as far as calling them psychosomatic because women in Boston didn't experience as many side effects as these women did.
Yeah, because there was like 12 women in Boston.
Yeah.
Now they're doing it on thousands.
Or had different health status to begin with.
Yeah.
The women in Boston might have been just physically even more healthy and nutrient.
Well, they probably had access to better healthcare as well.
Yeah, and just had more nutritious. Yeah. So they even claimed that they were happening because the women expected them to happen.
Yeah, which is stupid because they didn't know what it was.
They didn't even know what it was. So how could they have expected that to happen to them?
They had no idea what they were taking.
But even after 3 women died, they did nothing. No one performed any autopsies to determine if the deaths were related to the drug because, God forbid, they did do this and did find out, then it would have to be out there.
Yeah, there's no we'll never know if those women died because of the drug, but blood clots are quite common even today with the
things.
One third of the amount of hormones in them is what they were giving them. Blood clots are quite common and they're a concern. So it's very possible that at least one of these women, if not all three of them, died because of the tablets they were taking. We don't know because obviously, as Daniel just stated, their healthcare wasn't great. They were very poor, so they might have had something else wrong with them, but we don't know.
I would also argue the fact that these are the ones what's been listed. I mean, we don't know what they've been up to over there, and if there was any more deaths that they happened later and they just put it down for other reasons, you know.
Well, it could be that 3 women died within a set period after.
Yeah.
Right. Because this is just what was reported. So the scientists and the researchers forged ahead, of course. And in 1959, after additional trials in Puerto Rico, Haiti, and Mexico, Cyril appeared, which was the pharmaceutical company, appealed to the FDA, right, to make Enovid a contraceptive drug. The FDA approved its contraceptive use the following year.
Yeah.
Don't trust the FDA.
I had a picture of that, but I forgot to put it up on the slide.
Yeah, Jamie forgot to add the picture.
I've got a couple of
you want to look up ENOVID and you can see a picture of an ovid.
Yeah, if you really want to know what it looks like.
On June 23rd,
just a packet of contraceptive pill. I'm sure we've all seen one.
On June 23rd of 1960, a decade after the test began, the hormonal birth control pill hit the market. And the idea was simple. Take a little white pill once a day and avoid accidental pregnancy. The implications were revolutionary. And then, of course, you go back to, hiding it from people, too, that might have wanted to start families. But anyway, women could work without fear of becoming pregnant. Sex before marriage became less risky, and sex after marriage became less fraught. Feminist historians herald this day as the beginning of the sexual revolution. But the story of the birth control pill is also one of conflicting ideologies and medical exploitation. So
yes, it is.
It's a very personal decision and very personal to people and couples who go through it. And you know what? From everything comes evil.
Yeah. I mean, it's not just like the whole thing, like taking the pill against your partner's knowledge. It's stopping taking it as well without telling them.
Yeah, that happens.
That happens. So, yeah. So it was a different story, however, in Puerto Rico. The original price of Enovid was 50 cents a pill. That equated to $11 a month, which was far too expensive for the publicly housed labourers who had participated in the trials to afford. After months of enduring vaginal smears and more invasive procedures, most of the participants were left high and dry, denied both compensation and the drug that they had helped create.
Yeah, so again, exactly, that goes, what they said proves that it's all bullshit.
Yeah.
Because they made it too expensive for the poor.
About them.
They want to control the population of the poor, yet they make these things was too expensive for them, so of course it's going to carry on, so it's just horse shit. Yeah. Carry on.
So, indeed, in Puerto Rico, the benefits of the pill still, to this day, aren't fully felt. In 2002, the most recent year for estimates on contraceptive use on the island, a staggering, and this shocked me, 46% of women between the ages of 18 and 44 had reported that they had been sterilised. 46%, nearly half the women on the island have been sterilised because they can't afford to get the contraceptive pill that they helped create.
Yeah.
Unwillingly, but they still helped create.
Yeah.
And to the extent that they've actually had to close down the schools on the island because there was not enough children being born to...
Really?
There was no children to go into the first grade. They had to close the schools down. This is population control, everybody.
Yeah. That's what it looks like.
Only 19% of the women used oral contraceptives, as in 2002. As of 2008, 65.5% of the pregnancies on the island were unintended. Almost 60 years later, the dream of a magic little pill, the dream that drove so many poor women to sign up for an experimental drug, remains out of reach for them, which is absolutely disgusting and pathetic. A year after its FDA approval, in 1961, 132 incidents of thrombosis, which is blood clots, and embolism, which is when the clot blocks a blood vessel, were reported to the FDA. However, because the rate of those affected was 1.3 and 100,000 users, this was significantly lower than what they had on record for the amount of women who died of pregnancy complications, which could be multiple different things. And that was a rate at the time of 36.9 in 100,000. They just completely ignored the blood clots and like, oh, it's less, so we'll just pretend that's not happening. And it went and ignored completely. It wasn't until 1978, 8 years after a Senate hearing into the safety of the contraceptive pill, that the FDA introduced a risk leaflet in every park. And you've now got one in every park. And that is a dark history of the contraceptive pill and the motives behind its creation. And I will be the first to say, as somebody who has suffered for many, many years with extreme stage 4 endometriosis, the contraceptive pill, for me, was a godsend, because that's the only thing that you can use to, and it's not a treatment because there's no cure, but to control endometriosis to a degree. So it was a godsend, but a lot of people were exploited to create it, and it was ridiculous. These very same people that were exploited to create it, still to this day, because it's all about money, are not reaping the benefits. And nearly 50% of that complete archipelago is now sterilised because they can't afford the medicine that they were used to create. Disgusting.
I mean, you're not saying, that these were horrible people, and because we see that they've been portrayed as being good all the while, and it's about time that they need to be exposed. And they've been exposed. Even some of the people on that sort of side are starting to admit to it.
It's all political, because it lines up with their political agendas. They're trying to disguise and bury the truth of the past. Well, if you bury the truth of the past, you'll never learn from the mistakes of the past, and you're destined to repeat them.
You won't recognize what's happening currently or in the future.
To be known.
And we're not saying like the end products of some of the things that they do, like Lisa just said, haven't got some good results or some benefits, but you've got to be a bit more practical with things as well, be a bit more careful, and just don't accept that these people are doing genuinely good things that they claim. There's always some hidden agenda, and I know it sounds terrible, and people sort of criticize you for saying this, like you've found like little dark things in everything, but that's true. There is. Unfortunately,
you got to be realistic, Jamie. You're right.
Yeah,
there is a dark underbelly to everything.
Yeah.
There's always somebody that's got twisted intentions.
Yeah.
That's just the way that it is, and it always appears to be somebody that is a bit wealthy and thinks that they have got the right to do this shit.
Power, status, what they
think that they think that they're better than you, so they've got the right to treat you like shit.
Some of them actually have perfect intentions of doing right at first. Some people, obviously, we know what their intention was.
But
some people do, but they do lose their way, I think.
Either they lose their way, or they're taken advantage of by the people who do have the more power or the more money to factor in all this. And hey, if you want to get this study done, or if you want to get this completed, you're going to have to do it our way. And and it just goes to like today. We have our FDA, and I think as the years go by, the more we realize how little trust we should be putting into that big organization.
Even in that. Yeah, because later on you find out other things about certain things which they thought were okay. Same as, we might do a program on, but like talcum powder. The problem with talcum powder, I think there was a sort of like lawsuits going on everywhere in America.
Johnson & Johnson was big on that.
Exactly, and that's why all they did was change the name to baby powder. I still got it today.
Big Pharma has twisted not only the law but morality to make money multiple times. And if you don't know, I mean, and I'm sure the people watching probably know about this thing, but thalidomide, what they done there was absolutely disgusting, and they kept doing it knowing what was happening. It might be something we cover later on, but they will experiment on you. You're just test subjects, you're guinea pigs to them, and it's all about money, because you're worthless to these people. Money is all they care about. They don't care about you because you are lower than them.
I did put a link in the chat for those who might be interested in watching that documentary. I believe it's under an hour long, and there are some subtitles, but there is English narration as well. Like Lisa said,
it's not the best quality video.
No,
but it's very
okay.
I was just going to say it's not the best,
I believe, something like that. But
and then Kelly mentioned something in the chat as well about a movie that talks about some more experimentation just to see what it does to the human being. So if you scroll up there, you can see some of that too.
I wouldn't pay attention.
I get a movie called Hysteria.
Hysteria, yeah.
So
the term hysteria comes from because they believed women were hysterical, and that's why you got hysterectomy, because women were making it up. They weren't in pain. They wouldn't have problems with their period. They were just being hysterical. That's where the word hysteria comes from, because hysterectomy, whatever. Yeah, women.
Always ask questions. Don't jump into these things. Don't, it's a sad time with all of these, with all of the medication we have out there and everything. And it's like a lot of people are now starting to work their way back to natural remedies, homeopathic remedies, herbal, and I totally get it. I totally understand why.
Yeah. And also, I think like the fact for me, I mean, that's just my opinion. The fact that they like try and poo-poo, like when I say poo-poo, crocodile poo still in my brain.
Pun intended or no pun intended?
These natural remedies, they try and like dismiss them and like mock them. It makes you wonder why they're going to so much effort to dismiss them when it's just a herb or something. It's not going to do any harm. It's not going to do any harm, so just let somebody try it.
The truth of the fact is, they say that these are they're not tested, they're dangerous natural remedies. Let's use them as caution. What they create comes from exactly the same source. That's what it is. They've just
added bullshit to it,
chemicals and science to it, but it's the same stuff, different day. No, I mean, well,
so we hope. I mean, I hope you found it interesting and you learned something, because knowing about the truth of the past is important. Because as I say, you're not going to learn from the mistakes of the past if you just gloss over them and pretend it didn't happen.
Yeah. Part one was actually a little obviously more dark than this, although this had dark element to it. Part one talked about specifically what their goals and everything were, but I think you get the gist of what and where it was going. So
so make sure that you head on over and visit our website and have a look at our amazing products over on the website. That is at thecuriouscasefiles.com. Subscribe to this video, share it with your friends, and make sure that you tune in next week. Because next week we're back on true crime, and we're going to be looking at a little murder in a coffee shop, and that's what I'm going to say. In the meantime, we will see you next Tuesday.
See you later, everyone. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, definitely will be there next Tuesday, because even if Jamie's sick again, I'm just going to lock him in the cupboard and come on anyway.
No, seriously, thank you so much for tuning in. Sorry about last week, but you always know where to find us here, generally on every Tuesday. Please make sure you subscribe, like, and please share.
Thumb up.
The thumb up, please. That gets more views. It'll get it out there. And of course, sharing if you have any family or friends that you think would be interested in any of the topics that we cover. So love you all. Thank you so much.
See you next Tuesday, very much, everybody. Everyone. Curious